How much more can the Vols rely on their running backs this year to take pressure off of Joe Milton? And I'll give you three options: a lot, the same, or less. And I wrote a column on this on Off the Hook Sports. It's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. So, how much more will the Vols rely on their running backs this year to take pressure off Milton? A lot, the same, less.
So I can't say a little more. I got to say a lot or the same.
No. We're making it tough. We're Skip Baylessing you.
I'm not Skip Baylessing this. I'm sticking with the little more.
Okay, you get a little more. I'm going to say the same. I think this is still, at the end of the day, Josh Heupel's offense, and he's going to want to throw the ball around. Now, if you want to include Dylan Sampson flexed out and catching some passes and running some screens and maybe some end arounds, then the yardage total at the end of the year might actually undermine my point. But I think they're still going to run the football. Be honest. This was a running football team last year, Caleb.
It
People
was. They
don't,
ran it 40 times a game.
yeah, which people don't realize. So I'm not going to say any more or any less. I think it's exactly down the middle, and it's exactly the same.
You might have a point. All right, I'm convinced. I'm going to less, and I'll tell you why I'm going to less.
Less, not just same, but less.
Yes, because I didn't even think about the fact of Dylan Sampson out of the backfield on passing plays, and what I've thought about is Joe Milton's actually going to have I think he's going to have fewer yards than Hendon Hooker, but more pass attempts than Hendon Hooker, because I think they're going to use the middle of the field and the flats a lot more than they did last year. So I think he's going to use the short yardage. I think Heupel's going to rely on more medium gains this year than he is on those, 80-yard touchdowns, which, I mean, there were 4 against Alabama alone that went 50 yards or more. And I think he's going to try to, I think you might only see 1 or 2 this year, and you might see Milton work the clock and work the field a little bit more.
Here's the other reason I'll say same or less. Cody on the video feed says the same. It all goes back to the O-line play, and I agree with that. Great point, Cody. If they're able to run the football, they're going to do that. Maybe they won't be as good at running the football. I think they will. I think where Tennessee fans should be most scared on the offensive line is Darnell Wright. Do they have a guy one-on-one that can shut down a Will Anderson or one of the 2 kids that were at LSU that were very good pass rushers as well last year? Tennessee has a great group of tailbacks. Remember this too, not just arguing with everything you say this morning, Caleb, but remember this too. What does Joe Milton do differently than Hendon Hooker and arguably better?
Well, I think work the middle of the field a little bit better.
Agreed. Those tend to be shorter passes. Sometimes if you're on 3rd and medium, let's say 3rd and 3, which I would consider 3rd and medium, you might run the ball previously, whereas a little hook or a dig route to Jacob Warren will get you those 3 yards. So I could make an argument that Joe Milton is going to complete more of those short passes that will move the chains, whereas you would have leaned on the running game previously. So I actually think the running backs, you brought up the point, and I think the running backs are going to play a smaller part, not a significantly smaller part, but just maybe 5 or 10% less than they did last year.
You might get them more involved in the passing game, though. Although Jabari Small was involved in the passing game last year. So we'll have to see how that goes. If Dylan Sampson picks up pass blocking, I mean, Dave, I'm still thinking along your lines. If he picks up pass blocking, I don't see how you don't keep him on the field as much as possible. But that's a big part of this.
No, I think it's very good. And we listened to Josh Heupel over the weekend talk about Jalen Wright, who quietly was Tennessee's leading rusher last year. I bet if you would have asked average guy off the street, they would have said Jabari Small, right? I bet if you ask average guy off the street who was the most exciting, they would have said Dylan Sampson last year. But Jalen Wright just there chugging along, supposed to be more mature, as you would expect. His body's better than it was last year. I've said it before. He is the best combination of having a little wiggle, speed, and power. He needs to run through more people to punish people so the entire running back crew can benefit from that in the fourth quarter when defenders are tired of getting hit. He's a guy that had the speed in high school that he could just bounce it outside, bounce it outside. The guy that I think of most often is would have to be Travis Stevens. Travis Stevens was a bounce it outside guy by nature, right, Caleb? But
Right.
he did punish would be tacklers enough to keep them honest. Jalen Wright needs to be the next Travis Stevens. If he can do that, if he can add a little bit of power, a little bit of physicalness to his game, he can be a really special back because then you bounce it out and you make some plays on the outside, some big time plays. But first, you've got to establish that defender as being a little scared and not wanting physical contact and making that tackle.
Yes, if Jalen Wright can embarrass Marquand Manuel and Gus Scott in the same game, the way Travis Stevens did playing Florida in 2001, where he ran over, I will never forget, they had Marquand Manuel, who was Florida's starting safety, try to tackle Travis Stevens. He bowls him over and scores. Then they bring in Gus Scott in, and Travis Stevens breaks his tackle for a 68-yard run. And that's when Spurrier said at the end of the game, I don't know what happened. It looked like Colorado running through Nebraska there. And if Jalen Wright can do that, then we're talking a totally different game. I'm still not so sure. And this was actually an issue with Stevens too. So this could be an issue with Wright. 3rd and 1, you line it up. They're running the ball. Can he get that first down? Jabari Small always could. He always got that first down last year. And it wasn't about always his power. It was about his vision and his understanding of where to go between the tackles. Does Jalen Wright have that?
Yep. There you go. All right. So I think we got a new person on board, and we appreciate that. So let's give a shout out to him. David Michael reminds me of, Samson. David Michael post, Samson reminds me of Arian Foster. Reminds me a little bit more of, I would say, Alvin Kamara would be more the comparison that I would draw. But David, we appreciate you being a part of our channel, and welcome. Travis says best three-headed monster at running back. I'm assuming he means the SEC, but perhaps beyond. That's certainly.
No, he didn't say best. Just we have a three-headed beast.
Oh, absolute three-headed beast. Okay, so where do they rank among best in the SEC?
Ooh, where do Vols running backs rank among best in the SEC?
As a group. So you have guys like just to come up with some names off the top of my head. I mean, you got Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss, who's probably the best tailback by far. Raheem Sanders at Arkansas, Montrell Johnson at Florida, Brian Battle at Auburn, Chase McClellan, at Alabama. So you got some pretty good first backs, but what SEC team has a better group of backs?
Yeah, you're right. Tennessee, I feel like goes deeper. I want to say Arkansas, but we got
the thing Felix Jones there, Caleb.
No, that's true. That's true. This isn't. No, I don't know any team that's like 2004. And for context and history, in 2004, Tennessee had 2,000-yard rushers, and that wasn't even the best running back combo in the SEC because Auburn had Carnell Williams and Ronnie Brown. And so that was, I don't know if you'll ever have a year like that again in college football where running was so prominent. But
and it's just not that way anymore. I mean, we went in, you have to kind of do your research to find the best tailbacks in the SEC, right? I mean, other than the Ole Miss cat, I mean, who else really, really, really stands out? And used to be you would go into a season and you'd say, that guy has Trent Richardson, Alabama does. That Darren McFadden at Arkansas is really good. That's just not the way the running back position is anymore. And that's why they're changing even the pay scale in the NFL to try to find ways to get them more money because they get burnt out so quick. And
yeah, I think I will go with so you do have Quinshon Judkins still at Ole Miss. Is Zach Evans still at Ole Miss?
Caught me off guard. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I'm actually looking that up now if Zach Evans is still at Ole Miss, because if he is, that's the best 1-2 combo in the SEC. And I should know if he's gone or not. But yeah, he's gone.
And we haven't mentioned spring sensation Cam Seldon, who you and I both think is probably a spring sensation. But if one of these guys go down, he has the physical ability, at the very least, to step in.